Hello, everyone. It's great to meet. It's the month of the menopause, and I really love that, even though for me it's the year of menopause. I deal with that every day, and it's really my favorite topic. So, in the month of menopause, which creates awareness and everybody really gives a little bit more thought, I would like to talk about the perimenopause, which is actually the whole phase in your life which leads up to the cessation of the period. And it's very often actually a more troublesome period, and you suddenly get hit by symptoms that you don't know where it comes from, and it really throws you off the train rails, and you don't know how to deal with it, etc. So let's speak about the silent epidemic of the perimenopause, which is as big as the menopause and as important as the menopause, but it's just really something that I really feel that this is the end, Kanali. That I really feel that this is something that we need to talk about much more and all the time and again and again. And we've been all tuned with the pandemic, and I would say, the hormone imbalance is a silent epidemic. So it's really out there. It's affecting so many women, very often of all ages. And I think it's really fun to discuss about everything you need to know about the perimenopause. Perimenopause. Let's look at a woman's life cycle. So this is also something that is very important to see, what different phases a woman goes through. It's obviously you're born, then you're a child, and then you go into your teenage years. In the teenage years, you start usually with your period. So you start your reproductive age in theory, because the eggs that are sleeping in your ovaries, they're awakening, and you start having a cycle. More so in the youth, when you're in the years of the youth. And then when you get into the reproductive age is when you have your you become a mother, and you're becoming pregnant, and you carry your babies, and you do all the thing that is connected with that. So that's the reproductive age. That is usually between 25 and 45. 45 is probably pushing it, but let's say 45. And then when this reproductive age comes to a still stand, then you go into the perimenopause, which then leads into the menopause, and then you end up in the mature age. And all of this, ladies, of course, if we're lucky, if we can go through all these phases of our lives, because we're healthy and we can do it. It's unfortunately not a granted thing, and we should be grateful every day for when we are alive and when we can have the energy we want. So this is the women's life cycle, very important. And also another thing that is very important on the cycle is that we live these ages. Also, we live so much longer. So I don't know if we have a slide on that, Kaneli. We do have really the enormous gift of longevity, which means that we live so much longer. And if we think that our hormones are really declining significantly from the age of 45 until they really stop at the average age of 51, that means that we have 30, 40, 50 years without the support of estrogen. So this is also something to keep in mind, and really see, how the hormone levels drop. And also, let's not only see how the hormone levels drop, but let's also see what we're doing at that ages. I mean, the age 50 is like the old age 40, and the age 60 is like the old age 50. So for sure, at these stages of our lives that we are with dropping estrogen levels and estrogen deficiency, we are living in a demanding life set where we need to do everything. We need to work, we need to raise our children, we are partners, we have our sexual activities in whatever color, and so we need to be in a phase where we can actually do that, and where we are able to withstand all these challenges. So I think this is also a very very important thing to think about, that, with the estrogen dropping in a life phase, that we're actually not retiring and not relaxing, but that we are actually on the full throttle and the full demands of our lives, which is 50, 60, 65. So very important fact for later. All right. So let's see, what is the perimenopause? I mean, the perimenopause is defined by the Mayo Clinic. You can open the slide kindly. Is defined as the period that is leading up to the cessation, which is basically the phase of the time around the menopause. Menopause is really when your period actually has stopped for a year. So when you have had no menstrual flow for a year, that's when you officially get your certificate of being menopausal. And all the time leading up to that menopause is called the perimenopause. This can sometimes last 2, 3 months, sometimes can last 5 years. And it's really this transition phase where you experience very often symptoms because your body really doesn't know what to do. It's a bit undecided. So very often, this phase coincides with the puberty of your children, and then that's really fun because the brain of the children's under construction and your brain is also under construction. So that is really a bit of a toxic combination here. But the main thing, and why we're really spending the time and wanting to discuss everything with you, is that you start realizing that certain symptoms that you have, and we will go into the symptoms, they're hormonally triggered, and you don't really need to go crazy and worry about that you are going crazy, or that you need to go to a psychiatrist, or you need to go to see the cardiologist or whatever. So these menopausal transition time or perimenopause is really something that can be very mild and can be very violent. So we have here these lovely ladies, which is the premenopause, which is usually something that there are no really noticeable changes, but the hormones start to shift. So it can be, after childbirth, or, in your late 30s. So you still have regular periods, you still, have a flow, you have all the symptoms that you used to have, but still your hormones are starting to shift and to drop. If I mean shift, it's usually unfortunately downhill. And that's where it's also very often extremely difficult for women to put a name on what they feel, because they feel that the period is normal, they feel nothing has changed, so where does this come from? So and it can really happen in a much earlier stage than when your mind really goes to any kind of perimenopausal changes. The perimenopause is then something that commonly occurs in the 40s. It may experience irregular periods, weight gain, mood swings, insomnia, and all of that nice package, so that you feel you're much more irritable, and you have all this sort of you feel overwhelmed, you cannot deal with your stress, you feel that you feel that you get a heart attack because your heart is pounding, you cannot sleep through the night. I mean, there are a lot of symptoms there that we go through in a little while. And then you have the menopause, where the average, as I said, is usually 51 years of age, and that means you had 12 consecutive months with no menstruation. So that's the official declaration of the menopause, where you get your certificate to put on your wall that you're official menopausal. But the level of the estrogen in the female hormone rises and falls very unevenly during the perimenopause, and this makes it also so difficult to put a name on it and to really feel what it is. So your cycles, they may lengthen or shorten, or you have maybe cycles where there's no ovulation. You might have hot flushes, very irregular periods, very abnormal periods, as in the sense that you have a much heavier flow or you have a lighter flow. You might experience night sweats, that you wake up because you're really very sweaty, and it's usually in the décolleté area and the neck area, sometimes also the head, that you really feel that your pajama is like drenched and you need to change even the bed linen. And some women even sleep on towels, believe it or not, because there's so much sweating. Then, from this uneven, produced hormones, you might experience breast tenderness. You might have an increase in weight gain, much more premenstrual syndrome, so much more irritable and vulnerable before your period actually starts. You have much lower sex drive, a loss of your memory, headaches and muscle aches, vaginal dryness, increased frequency of urinary tract infections, tachycardia, so that you really feel that your heart is pounding out of your chest and you think you're going to have a heart attack. Very nice, though. Mood swings and thinning of hair, just to mention a few, because there are really, I've seen women with chronic sinusitis that she's been taking tons and tons of antibiotics and again, and she was hit by it. And then once we balanced the hormones, the sinusitis would stop. So it can really, if it's something, a set of symptoms that you suddenly have and it appears in this time of your life, I would really invite you to really think down the line of perimenopause as well, because believe me, ladies, I've seen everything. It's just insane that we are really made out of hormones, and when they're uneven and if they're, dropping, it's really quite something else. So that is just to mention, the symptoms. And the normal estrogen levels, they do change with age. So during the reproductive years, obviously they're at their top performance, because that's how you get pregnant. And also, let's not forget that the estrogen levels, they naturally fluctuate throughout the menstrual cycle. So we do have this up and down in the cycle. That's why we women are also so special, because we never the same a single day. We have always different hormone levels. The peak of the estrogen levels is obviously during the middle of the cycle when we ovulate. That's the absolute peak, and the lowest during the period. On the onset of menopause is usually when the estrogen is very dominant and the progesterone is low. Now, this is how a cycle looks like, what we said earlier. So it's really at the peak in the so-called reproductive years, which is 25 to 45, even though 45 is already quite difficult to get pregnant, or very, very difficult. And then, in the early 50s, it's really dropping, and then, really lowering more and more into the mature age. So this is really this little bell that we have there in our female hormonal life, and all, the juiciness and the activity and the giving birth and being the most creative and having the most, super duper brain is unfortunately when our estrogen levels are high. So that is really the sad news. And here is another graph which really shows, what's happening and how the estrogen and the progesterone and the testosterone, which is not in this slide, but they're all dropping. Anyway, that's how we are designed, and we are basically ridden by our hormones. What are hormones? Hormones are little messengers that they are secreted by our pituitary gland, or the hypothalamus, actually, to be precise, which then, has this cascade of hormones that are being produced one to the other in order to activate our so-called endocrine organs, which are then the actual receptor organs which carry out the production of the actual hormone, which is the thyroid, the ovaries, the testicles, the adrenal cortex, and also the pancreas, which is missing in the slide. But anyway, so these are the hormones. These are our little messengers that get released based on a biofeedback system, depending on what the levels are. If the levels are low, there's a feedback from the brain that the levels are low so that they're produced more. And if they're too high, vice versa. So we're in a constant exchange of information and about hormone levels in our lives. And that is really this amazing, I would say really miracle of our beautiful body, that we have all this endocrine communication going on a cellular level every moment of our lives. So there's nothing that really gets unnoticed. And there are four pillars of our hormone health. I mean, things that we can actually help to influence so that our hormones feel a little bit more balanced. For sure, the gut health is extremely important. So, ladies, that is really something that you can make a difference, and you really choose very carefully what you put into mouth and into your stomach, and when, and in which combination. And that is really where our Hormone Harmony program comes in very, very helpful, because it really, helps and teaches you how to reset your gut and how to manage your pancreas and insulin regulation, and how to detoxify your liver metabolism, and manage the stress response, which is also something that is very much influencing our hormone levels. Because let's not forget, we are built to be hunters and to be warriors and to be to be in that kind of context. We're not really built to be in this permanent and non-stop stress mode. And when the HPA axis, which is the axis that we saw earlier from the hypothalamus to the hypophyse down to the endocrine organ, when this is constantly under attack, obviously the body's going to prioritize, and then just make sure that we survive and not that we are hormonally balanced. So these are the four pillars. And what happens when one of these columns or all of them are not functioning optimally? So, the most prominent symptoms are really the depression, the stubborn belly fat, irregular periods, painful periods, weight gain, anxiety and anxiety disorder, and depression, infertility, hot flushes, endometriosis and fibroids, and of course also PMS and PMDD, which is this phase prior to the period where you really feel you're losing it and you feel very, very much vulnerable and very much non-functioning. The not so obvious symptoms, which can also very often be in relation with a not balanced hormonally, is really the chronic fatigue, muscle cramps, hives and rashes, gas. It's absolutely not normal to fart all the time. That really, shows that there's something like a dysbiosis, imbalance of your microbiome, so it needs to be really looked at. Brain fog, migraines, neck pains, joint pains. Very common is the joint pains, that you really have like a constant muscle and joint pains and morning stiffness. And most of the women that have frozen shoulders are perimenopausal or menopausal. Out of 10 women, 9 are probably like that, and very, very few are really just injury, and the rest is really hormonal. And sinusitis, very, very bad problem that many, many women has, is the insomnia. So you fall asleep that you're really, really very, very tired and exhausted, and then as if there's a magic alarm going off at 2 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, and you wake up very much alive and awake, and you cannot go back to sleep. So this is very, very common for the perimenopause. And why the confusion in perimenopause? I mean, it's not only that perimenopause is confusing and difficult to identify for women, but it's also challenging for doctors to define hormonal imbalance as an area that is not well defined or treated in conventional medicine. So there are no lab tests really signaling that you are on the stage of life. So it's very subjective, and also variable symptoms occur across women. and compounded by the fact that it's historically women's health that is given a backseat in conventional medicine, there's no wonder that you end up with this whole bout of problems and symptoms that can be really, very often can be totally disabling and make you not being able to function in your daily life, and still nobody can put a name on it. So we have very often these women that I see that have gone from doctors to doctors, and they've done blood tests, and because the blood tests, they are in the normal range, they're told that it's psychological and, you know, take an antidepressant or basically shut up. That's how it was. And what did a Canadian patient that I had a Skype the other day said that the doctor told her to suck it up. Can you believe that? I mean, honestly, no solution given. Just saying because that's how it is and that's how it used to be for generations, and there's nothing we can do. So just suck it up. So I'm not surprised that there's confusion in the perimenopause if, you know, the medical world cannot even, you know, assist on many occasions. Yeah,
I mean,
so
they were actually documenting now that the training a lot of the United States OBGYNs got about menopause was just a couple of weeks in
well,
an entire,
that's the that's I think that's a lot.
yeah.
A couple of weeks, that's probably a lot. I think it's less than that. I
And
mean,
this is what
I
most of the,
remember in my training was nothing about the menopause. That's it.
so your entire medical studies to become a doctor, an OBGYN, which lasted, what, nine years? Was it?
No, the specialty is 6 years.
So in that entire training, there was nothing
Nothing.
about the menopause.
I mean, okay, you would identify that this is menopause. I mean, the woman had very bad bleeding and hemorrhaging, so of course what you offer is a hysterectomy. And, you know, and because she's in the perimenopause, there's no point to keep the organ, so just take it out all. That is really, you know, so they would identify, you know, the big, you know, red lights, you know, that, you know, having periods, fibroids, and hemorrhaging and stuff. But you know, all these the all the small letters that are, you know, in the print, nobody reads them and nobody gives any attention to them. I mean, that you feel vulnerable, that you feel overwhelmed, that you cannot go to work because you're so afraid that you cannot meet the criteria, or that you cannot concentrate, or that you break out in a hot flush and you can, you know, you will embarrass yourself. I mean, this stress alone is it's just a small written. Nobody takes that for serious. Okay, it's psychological, take an anxiolytic and here you go. But if you reset your gut, if you eat the right food, if you pay attention to your exercise system, if you supplement with hormones or bioidentical hormones or body identical hormones, all of these things will go and you will not need a hysterectomy. That's the thing. Anyway, don't get me started.
So
Um,
something I want to say about the slide, because, don't forget that it's just in the last 50, 60 years that we've become, that we work now with screens. I think if women came back from the time that they used to be working out in the fields, they were working with the earth, or they were teachers, or they were more active, right? And so this sedentary lifestyle, we even saw now in the pandemic, how many people became a lot more sedentary. I mean, now you don't have to even go walk for your groceries. You don't even have to, you can order everything from your phone. Everything can just arrive at the house. You don't even have to walk to the shops and or to, everything you can do by Zoom or etc. So people's, I mean, no wonder now we need to make apps and phones that tell us how many steps we're doing, so that at least we know that we're doing enough steps, so that we can be out of this danger zone of the sedentary lifestyle, because all the inflammation comes up, and the body's not using all the energy, and women need to exert our energy in order to get rid of our stress. We need to talk our stress away, or we need to exert, clean the house. When a woman's upset, hey, she'll clean the house. She needs to exert her energy to bring the cortisol down. So sometimes when we say to women, please meditate, she might not be able to meditate when she's upset. She might need to do a walking meditation or a running meditation. So we need to find ways of reducing the stress and reducing the high sugar diets and all of that.
And also we need to, we need to really find a way to take the symptoms that our body sends as serious, because it's I always say to the women when they see me, they say, "Oh, I have all of this." I says, "Yes, your body's complaining. Your body's complaining because obviously you're not treating it right, and there's a feedback on what you do and what your consequences are when you don't move, when you don't, and you stay in a toxic relationship, and all of these things. So let's also take our body's responses more serious and act upon them. I find this very, very important, really, to address that we don't just ignore. We're in pain, but we just continue anyway.
I think it's
It's
so
important.
wonderful. This what you just said now, that you choose to remain in the toxicity, whatever toxic choice that was, whether it was a relationship or not exercising or the food you just had, 2 hours ago. And understanding that, since we are gifted and we are on the earth at the moment and we are alive, and we have every right to actually be happy and be productive and be healthy, and we can make changes for that to happen. We don't have to, in the olden days, it used to be, well, you chose one man or you had children, you could just think, and by all means, we want our women to stay married and we want blossoming, amazing marriages. But, if it's not happening, or if you're in a toxic relationship, like Dr. Sabine said, then that listen to what the body is saying. And I often tell women that in the menstruation time, when the body is menstruating, there is more complaining happening in the thoughts. But listen to what those complaints are, because actually we gifted in that time where your beautiful system is actually saying, this is wrong, please improve that, we need to improve on that, we need to improve on. And if we make the changes then, or we have the awareness of those changes, then you can start flying in ovulation when you've got great hormonal support and
Oh yeah, and then you actually you get and you get the extra horsepowers, and it's very, very, very much so. So I mean, women seek medical help because they really understand there's something wrong with them. So it's not, in their mind, and then, because the blood tests are not abnormal, they're just said, there's nothing wrong with you. It's psychological, or, you know, take a antidepressant, or take your painkillers, and go on the pill or on the synthetic HRT. And for me, it's very, very important as an outlook in medicine to really not just treat the symptoms, but really to address the root cause of the symptom. Why do I have this? Why does it come in again? And what is the pattern? I mean, start journaling what you eat to see, what is coming from where. So that's why I'm saying it's really important to take serious the symptomatology of my body and the language the body is speaking. So unfortunately, we're in this rat race. We're very much, conditioned to function, and to function at any cost. And so here we go. So there's no time, and in the perimenopause, the biggest imbalance that I see, and I'm seeing that for years and years, is not the absolute levels going through the roof. It's the relativity between estrogen and progesterone really not being favorable. What do I mean with this? That means that your estrogen in relation to the progesterone is too high, and we call this estrogen dominance. And this has all the symptoms like, fibroids, pain, headaches, irritability, hemorrhage, clots. I mean, I can go on for another 10 minutes. But the problem is that if you look at the absolute values of estrogen and progesterone, you might see that they're not that abnormal. But if the relation between these two is not good, that's when the whole avalanche comes loose. So it's very, very important to really look at this relationship between these two. And, if they are balanced, we conceive. So it's obviously a balance that is very, very finely designed to achieve the biggest wonder in our body, which is conception. So, take it really serious that this is a balance that you want to make sure that it's, looked at. And if you have a healthcare provider that doesn't pay attention to that, then change it, find another one. Um, I think this is really something that Kaneli wants to talk about. Huh?
I mean, the reason why I'm so passionate about this slide is that, unfortunately, I mean, I used to work a lot in industry, so with a lot of manufacturers around the world, around the globe. Now we look at, there's actually, and I'm sorry to say this, but, for a food product to land on a shelf, nobody actually checks that food product. I want to be like really frank, and I still work with some manufacturers, but I work with really healthy ones now. But actually, nobody's checking the label. Nobody's actually checking what goes into that food, right? So today we know there's a lot of farming that's happening with pesticides, herbicides, and unfortunately, we we now know, obviously, that our governments are not here to support us. They're not here to protect us.
No.
We know that. So even in the European Union, it's common, and it's unfortunate because, European Union, we didn't actually have a lot of mass production because of the way that our lands are quite small. I mean, we do have, flatter lands like in the Netherlands and Belgium, etc. But for us, that we are in Greece, we've got quite hilly lands. We've got small production. We've got small little farmers, and they never had to use a lot of herbicides and pesticides. But of course, as convenience has come into our world in the last 40 years, last 10 years even, we've had convenience on the rise. So it's a lot easier for a farmer to put a liter of, let's say, herbicide, pesticide, which costs a mere €8.70, to make sure that he doesn't have to be farming in a way that for him might require a lot more burden, let's say. So I know a farmer up in the north of Greece. So what she does is they make sure that every time they're switching around the farming. So if they did a lot of watermelons and melons, they're going to rotate. They're going to put onions there next time. So that they make sure that the soil has good till, right? That there's good nutritional value happening in the soil. So you're not constantly, doing the same farming methods. The other thing that she does, which I really honor, is that she uses aromatherapy oils instead of these herbicides and these pesticides. So what happens when that herbicide comes into your body, or the microplastic, right? Why do you think now that they've attached all of our caps onto our bottles, right? Now we've got a new law that says, okay, let's not have those plastic caps at your bottle that's going to come off, because they were landing up all in the seas and they would go into little microplastics. The fish would eat them. So in a female body, what happens is, then in a male body, it actually comes up like a xenoestrogen. So the body then thinks, whoa, I've got way too many estrogens. I don't know what to do with this. It's a foreign object for me. I wasn't given the instruction from the human body of how to actually metabolize and digest that. So it actually thinks that it's an estrogen, right? It starts to build up. And the poor liver is the one that has to now learn how to get rid of all of these new chemicals, new pesticides, new herbicides, because also they stop working and so they reinvent them. So you can just imagine this is what's happening in our food soils, the phthalates. That's why we tell women, don't go run a 5 kilometer run for Estee Lauder and think you're helping to eradicate breast cancer. Start looking at what you're putting on your skin. I tell it to my teenage daughters. They don't want to hear me, but I tell them about the perfumes and the body creams and the underarms that they're putting directly onto their skins, which then goes into your bloodstream. So You want to get rid of all of these highly toxic. See if you, I know it's very fashionable now to have air fryers, but you want to make sure that the air fryer hasn't got that non-stick, which most of them do, because that non-stick has got the chemical that, you know, has.
What's an air fryer? What do you do with an air fryer?
It's a new appliance. It's our ladies' new modern day appliance. You know, in the 80s we had the microwave revolution. Now we have the air fryer revolution. It's a really great way that you can just put everything into your air fryer, so it doesn't actually burn. You don't have to be there while you're cooking it. You can put it on. You could check it every 20 minutes by pulling it out or lifting the lid. But it actually makes great, like very little oil use. That's why women like it, because it can have, like, let's say your potatoes coming out as if they were partly fried, but there was no frying happening, or there was no oil, lots of oil put in. So it's great to use it. But because they're using this non-stick coating,
Oh,
which,
the what's it coated with? Oh,
and so every time you're heating that, that chemical is then going into your food. Unfortunately, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but it just is. So all these things we want to be checking. And I know that there is a natural way that the brain says, oh, well, everything's bad for us. So, you know, what are we going to do? Are we not going to live? I get it. I hear you. But there's simple things that we can use, like put a little filter on your tap so that you're not getting all of the chemicals from what they're trying to clean out the water. Switch some of your main fruit and vegetables to the organic. Go to the organic markets. This small, I'm not saying you have to change your entire world, but try and get all of these, you know, and every now and then, yes, we're going to slip up and we're going to have a chocolate. And what I do tell the ladies on our programs is enjoy it while you eat it, and then know that you must reparent yourself the next day and top up on your amazing fruits and your vegetables. Today, what we're actually quite fortunate about is you can actually get a farm to table. A lot of farmers are selling directly to public, so you can make sure you know what they're feeding you know, what chemicals they're putting on. So choose better. And then this, Dr. Sabine, was you know, an amazing discovery when you introduced me to how to improve your estrogen metabolism. You know, how do we actually metabolize the estrogens in the liver?
absolutely. And you know, when I say that to patients that, you know, your liver looks sluggish, they say, oh, no, 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 my liver is fine. My blood tests of the livers are good. And that's obviously wonderful news when the blood test is great, but you know, the sluggish liver cannot metabolize or eliminate dirty estrogens. These are estrogens that they have not been metabolized in the healthy pathway, and they then, you know, become toxic to the potential DNA and cause cancer. So this is a process that we call methylation. And the methylation is really the key factor for cancer prevention, not only for breast cancer, but for everything. So we don't want to have a sluggish liver. We want a liver that can concentrate on the healthy pathways. And a wonderful way to really help your liver to do that is with fasting and with the right choices that you eat, so that you really, you know, don't overload your liver with all these, you know, loads of chemicals that they're hidden, and they then, you know, behave as if they're, you know, they're logging onto the estrogen receptor, and they behave like estrogens. And then, you know, you get the whole package of the estrogen dominance, which is like really very high estrogen levels that they then, you know, turn everything upside down. So it's really, really important to master the estrogen dominance. And it's something that you can actually learn how to do it. You don't need to be a scientist. It's something that, you know, that gets taught in our programs. And it's really a beautiful way, because you gain yourself, and you gain health, and you move yourself into a much healthier place on your scale of diseases. So it's quite amazing. So estrogen dominance is a big no. and we need to be good to our liver. And these women that they all drink every night a little wine or a little schnapps or a little raki. I mean, it's unbelievable how many women do that. And I really invite you not to do it, because it's something that your liver is totally sent into the wrong direction for 24 hours, and it's not a good thing. Anyway, let's go to the next slide and let's see what are the reasons also to become estrogen dominant is low progesterone. As we said, when the dance partners progesterone and estrogen are not really the same height or in the right relation, then you get these estrogen dominant symptoms, and you have insomnia, midnight waking, infertility, miscarriages, mid-cycle spotting, anxiety, restlessness, restless legs, mood swings, hot flushes, you name it. So it's really something that also the stress, as we said earlier, don't know if we have the stress slide on here, that it's really like a big thing, that what the stress does to our cortisol, and it actually steals. Can you believe it? It's a thief. And that means that the body is prioritizing and really wants to make sure that there's enough cortisol available in order to master this chronic stress. And when there's more cortisol needed, the first thing that gets put aside is the progesterone. So your progesterone gets low, you become estrogen dominant, you get all these emotional symptoms, you get very puffy, very bloated, a lot of water retention, a lot of belly fat, you can't lose the weight, you have zero interest in sex. And to name for just a few. So, the stress is just a toxic thing, which is, in everybody's mouth, and it's very much in the vocabulary. You're not tired anymore, you're stressed. You're not exhausted, but you're stressed. So, but the stress is actually very, very subtle and very demon effect on your endocrine system, and you're gonna pay it with really many very unpleasant symptoms. So please just make sure that your cortisol is balanced, and we're going to look into what you can do actually to get rid of that, if we can.
Something that we learn in the Hormone Harmony program, and we will talk about that afterwards, is how can we, during the day, start microdosing on some play and on pleasure, right? So that we learn, because as women, we're so good at being responsible. We're so good at taking care of others. We're so good at doing the things we have to do, right? Tick the boxes, do the things I said I would do, right? We're so good at being proper. And how do we then learn, while we're in that mode of responsibility, to break that mode and to do a bit of play, or to have a bit of fun, or to listen to some music? And we have to actually intentionally put that in, because I promise you, when you're in responsible mode, nothing in your body says it wants to have fun or start playing or being silly. But what happens is, when we break that little habit, just even 5 minutes, 3 minutes, you listen to a nice piece of music, you start dancing. You could do it in the supermarket. You can do it in Zara. You can be the crazy lady when you're waiting in the queue. Then it starts to rewire the brain, and the cortisol immediately starts to come down. There's lots of tricks that we start learning, and we support each other on that, because stress is a killer, right? And even more so for women, because we get deprived of all these amazing hormones that we actually need.
But it's also something that a lot of women are really puzzled by. This. They say, I've been doing this for all these years, and I never had any symptoms, and I haven't changed anything. And I'm just saying that the older you get and the more you grow into a wise age, whatever age that might be, the body becomes less forgiving. And that's really what it is about, that you have been abusing the system. Okay, the body could compensate, and in some stage it cannot compensate anymore. It's as simple as that. So doesn't mean because we got away with it that it's okay, and that it will not affect you at some stage. So That's why I'm saying it's very, very, very important to actually
And
look.
you know, if somebody has been from trauma, we know, used to the stress, because the stress kept them busy, kept them safe, kept them, it actually becomes very addictive. And it's when somebody has to stop, suddenly stop, you know, and life does make you stop sometimes. To look at what's under the stress, right? And often there's grief there, often there's incomplete stuff there. So a lot of people don't want to stop and see. But it's really, really healing. It's healing. It's actually a matter of longevity if you actually can do that. So we encourage a lot of things, from breath work to, and you know, we share a lot of these tactics, which are very, it's vital for women, vital.
Hmm. So what can we help? What can we do to help the body to reach the homeostasis? And the homeostasis is what actually the body is designed for, which means basically balance. And, you know, we want to reduce inflammation and we want to optimize the gut function, which is actually reducing the inflammation. We want to optimize the sleep, which is reducing the inflammation. We will see based on your needs and on your blood tests and your clinical symptoms, what are the necessary nutrition supplements and herbs. I might give, you know, bioidentical hormones depending on, again, the tailor-made assessment of your situation, because every woman is different. You cannot give one pill for everybody. And so it gets tailor-made for you. So this is really also one of the magics, that we give what is needed for you and for your context and for your, you know, range of symptoms. You know, it's very, it varies very much. So it can be a very challenging phase of your life, the perimenopause. Is nothing to be afraid of. Can be absolutely dealt with if you just follow a few things, and if you know, if you can really make yourself also a priority. And what you can actually do from today, from tonight, that you listen to all of that, is really eliminate these troublemakers. You know, no sugar and no alcohol, no gluten and no dairy, and increase your fruit and vegetables to 60% of your diet. Exercise at least 30 minutes per day, 4 times per week. And this is very important. And you should not really give in on that. I mean, if I sometimes I'm so busy that I cannot do it, I really pay for it because it's something that my body really needs. And you know, we have reached a certain age that we don't need to be everybody's darling, and we need to really look after ourselves and make our self priority. And that has nothing to do with narcissism or egoism or whatever. This is really what we owe our body. We've only one ship to sail. We might as well look after it.
And I want to
And
say something about, sorry, Dr. Sabine, what you just said now about, you know, making yourself priority and getting rid of the gluten. Now, don't think that it's going to be forever, right? That, oh, I'm never going to eat gluten again. No, what we want to do is we just want to reset. Like you take your car to be washed, you get the cleaner in to clean your house. But you know, you didn't take the time to, or nobody taught you how to clean out the body. Just clean out the pipes. And I promise you, women that have got bloating, lots of weight, and then they reset, right? And then they can have you know, when an auntie makes whatever, a cheese pie, and you can have it and it's not so. And we teach you all these tricks as well of how to do it, when to do it. Um, yes, it's not, no, I don't think it's going to be never again, right? Because the brain is,
no, it's rebooting. It's rebooting and really set your new normal, because you know, to have a headache, to be in a bad mood, to have constantly bloating and gases, just to mention a few, is not okay. So we want you to reset your new normal, and that's what this is about. And then, you know, to have the tools and the tricks that when you have a naughty week or a bad weekend where you just do it all, that you know how you can, you can,
yeah.
you know, get it again on a good level. So I think we just have the most beautiful gift, which is our body. So we just want to help you how to look after your body and make it work for you and not against you.
And,
Right?
and not to be suffering, right? Because many women think they have to just suffer through it, and it's not the truth, right? We don't have to be suffering through it.
You know, I have so many patients that when I see them for the first time, they're in shambles. And then I see them 4 to 6 months later and says, oh, I'm like reborn. I'm myself again. I'm happy with my husband. I can concentrate. I mean, and this is really that we owe to ourselves, you know, and with, you know, with listening to us, following us, you know, doing the Hormone Harmony program, doing a liver detox, doing an immune booster, all these little things that we have for you. These are things that are comprised information and experience that I have gained for so many years. Take advantage of it. It's really, it's there, it's available. You can have access whenever you want, and just, you know, make yourself priority. Look after yourself. That's it for
Yeah,
today with
what's
the
fantastic. Yeah, we do it in a group.
perimenopause.
We do it in a group, so you don't have to struggle and do it alone. Women love doing things in a connected community. So we run it over 8 to 10 weeks, and you really reset. You understand how to regain new habits. You form new habits. You actually, you know, rewire your brain, which is so fantastic that we can do it. You reverse your age, which is another amazing. It's a bonus that you get. Women don't expect it. I always tell them around week 7, people will come up to you and they will say, "What
What
are
did
you
you do?
doing?"
Anyway, great to see you, Canelli. Thank you,
Happy
ladies.
Menopause Month and happy
Happy
Breast
menopause month.
Cancer Awareness
Oh,
Month. Thanks
yeah.
for putting that in, Dr. Sabine, about the estrogen dominance and how
Oh,
women
yeah.
just
It's
need to
very,
detoxify their livers to protect their health, their breast health.
yeah. All right. Lots of love. Be well. Bye-bye. Bye.